Oh, was she the one that was with you? You
Yeah.
said you had the name.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So, she's gonna be hanging around your house. We're talking about she wants to be. Okay. Good.
This is just yeah, just in case, because you know what would happen in this area.
I never had that problem.
I'm ready to.
September, it's down here.
Yeah.
It's doesn't work. Never had a problem.
They do every time.
She loves talking to you.
You'll enjoy that.
We're going to get started here in just a minute. Wanted to share a statement with you guys prior to call of order regarding last week's meeting. There were some questions, and hopefully we can clear it up. Earlier this year, the Board of Trustees met with the Township Attorney, and we discussed a strategy in which a lawsuit was filed by a resident against the Township challenging our constitutionality of portions of our township zoning ordinance that have been on the books for years. Those portions were sightline distance and setbacks. The resident wanted a court order to allow the construction of a house on a lakefront property without having to follow the lakefront sightline and setback requirements, which was challenged as unconstitutional. Our lawyer was able to negotiate a resolution to the lawsuit that avoided the possibility that a portion of the zoning ordinance would be found unconstitutional while establishing a sightline and lakefront setback for a new home construction on that resident's property that was reasonable. Last meeting, the Board of Trustees ratified that resolution. While the ratification could have occurred much sooner, the delay did not disrupt the final outcome of the litigation. And I hope this delay did not cause any concern in the community, and we apologize for the oversight.
What was the unconstitutional manner? Can we get an explanation on that?
Yeah, I actually have some wording for it. I'll send it to you if you'd like.
I think the public should know, I mean, you just sent it to me. I mean, you made a statement, we want to know why. I think we got a right to know what the unconstitutional
Well,
problem is.
our sightline ordinance was very egregious, and it didn't have any true guidelines for it, which left it open as unconstitutional. That's the best information I can give you right now until I actually look at the wording on it. So basically, it just left too many variables, and there were no set guidelines for it, which made it challengeable in court.
And when was the agreement made?
I'm sorry?
When was the agreement made?
To the lawyer.
I don't know the exact date. I don't have it. But it's all in the court. It's all on our records. We have it. So, with that, we'll call our meeting to order. Please rise and join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Madam Clerk, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Mike Cunningham.
Here.
Kurt Schultz.
Here.
Jennifer Eden. Here. Herman Ferguson.
Here.
Zach Tucker.
Here.
And David Walker's absent.
I'll entertain the motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Support.
It's been motioned and supported to approve the agenda as presented. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? That motion carries. Next is approval of the consent agenda. The regular board meeting minutes from October 19th, 2021, and the clerk's warrants and bills.
So moved. Support.
It's been motioned and supported to approve the consent agenda as presented. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? That motion carries. Next is the communications. We have one item, it's the fire service run report.
So moved.
Support.
Been motioned and supported to receive and place on file communications number 1. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Next, public remark. Anybody like to make any public comments? This public comment will be for anything about an agenda item, and then we'll have public comment about items that are not on the agenda. Yes.
We after we got the agenda, Scott Dietrich, White Lake Road, we had some discussion on some of our sites about the fire runs. And there was a lot of discussion. It was a good discussion. I'd like to ask you guys to table a little bit. I think we need to get a committee. I'm looking at some numbers for fire runs we're paying. And I brought this up before. I mean, if we take 300 homes in the mobile home park times 150, that's 45 grand. If they're only paying $20, it's only $6 grand. I mean, we have revenue there. I mean, we have property here now. I think we really got to seriously look at getting a fire department. I mean, I think we're getting gouged. I mean,
I think you misunderstand what's on the agenda. What's on the agenda is the burn permit.
well, that's where I'm at. I know that, I understand that. What I'm saying is the burn permit is one part of the, I'm just saying, we might go on and look at the whole picture. That's what I'm trying to say, other than just the fire run. That's what I'm asking you. So, but, I mean, the burn permit was a big issue last time. Somebody said they smelled garbage burning. We sent out a fire truck because somebody's burning a pile of wood. It smelled like garbage burning. I mean, $1,450 for that. I mean, they come out last year and cut up a tree in the road. I'm sure we got a fire run for that when the wires went down. And they left the wood all over the road, the pylon. No one ever came back to clean it. I mean, they at least got it off the road. They're going to charge us $1,450. I mean, it was dangerous. But I mean, I think that's something that we should be looking into, is the cost and money. We've got more revenue we've got coming in here from people that ain't paying their fair share. And the burn permit, I know I said a lot of things last meeting, but I'm really concerned about that. I mean, people are paying $150 for a fire. Mind you, the guy, he admitted he didn't have a burn permit. So, I mean, slap him on the hand at $1,450, that's what I was getting to it, maybe a fine. But other than that, that's something we might want to look into in the future.
Anyone else about agenda items?
Jeanette Lagetta, Fuller Drive. The approval of the meeting minutes is on the agenda. Can we talk about that?
Was there something that's of concern?
Yes.
Okay. Seek your consent.
So the last board meeting, October 19th, issue 3, was the settlement agreement request. And then on one of the pages on the agenda, it shows the agreement as not signed. That's what you all saw. That's what we all saw, was an unsigned agreement. Today, in the packet that I just downloaded, it has you approving those meeting minutes with a signed agreement, signed by the residents in question in February of 2021, and also signed by Supervisor Cunningham in March 2021. So what I'd like to know is why the public was not told that the agreement was already signed. Someone came in to look for that information on Thursday, I believe it was, and was told that they would have to do a FOIA request to get the whole document, but we already know what it is. And obviously you guys just put it out there in the packet. And the media also was given a copy of the unsigned agreement. They published an article the day after that meeting. So they have the unsigned agreement. So what exactly did you vote on? That's what I want to know. Did you vote on the signed agreement back in February and March that was already signed? Or did you vote on the unsigned agreement? Why, and then why was it signed without a vote? Doesn't that have to go through a vote before it gets signed? These questions need to be answered in full. And then just as a reminder, October 19th, our trustees were informed via an email that there were many questions regarding this agreement by the residents. They were also given a hard copy of that email prior to the meeting, and only one trustee voted against the motion to approve the agreement. Residents want to know what is going on, how a signed agreement was done in private, no one knew about it, or at least the public didn't. And how you think that you can just publish it now, slipped into an agenda meeting minutes to be approved, and make it look like it was presented at the meeting, it was not. So those are my questions about that. Thank you.
Anyone else?
We do have one on Zoom, I think.
Hi guys, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Fabulous. Sorry I couldn't be there in person tonight. I just wanted to make a couple quick comments about the agenda tonight. First of all, thank you for adding the first public comment back, because I think it's so important that residents have the chance to make a comment before votes take place. So I think that was commendable. I also was really happy to see that there's an update of some sort coming on the COVID funding, even if we don't have all the answers. I just wanted to express my gratitude for the fact that there will be some sort of update tonight. I also wanted to just bring up the burn permit stuff, and I know that I sent you an email with a lot of questions. And for you, maybe it's a simple decision, but for me, it was something that was sort of like Pandora's box that led to all these questions and trying to understand, you know, how our tax dollars pay into funding our fire service in Tyrone Township versus the revenue that comes in from the burn permit. And so I guess I just wanted to say again out loud that the residents still have a lot of questions. We really want to better understand our fire service and how the funding works. We've also had some direct participation in contact with fire department personnel in the area. They have concerns and questions about why this is on the agenda, and what that means in terms of safety going forward. And I would just encourage the board to have a robust conversation about this tonight, or if you're not able to do that at the board meeting, consider some type of forum, whether it's a workshop, or something of that nature where a little deeper discussion could be had. So that's just my thought going into tonight's meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, moving on to unfinished business, none. New business. Item number 1, discuss removing the burn permit requirement from the open burning ordinance and fee schedule. This is something that's been kicked around for quite some time. For residents to come in, pay $5, get the rules, and it's a big hassle. It was a big hassle during COVID. So we started looking at it and said, well, why do we really need to do that? We have an ordinance. If they get caught violating the ordinance, then it'll show up on the police report or the fire run report, and we can issue the fine. The $5 really is trivial. By the time someone comes in and pays $5, we use our copy, our product, our time. We're not making any money on it. There's no money to be made there, and by the time we go, it's a couple grand at the end of the year. So it's not about making money. It's kind of become an inconvenience and extra work around the office. I spoke with both Chief Carendoff and Chief Carroll from Heartland and City of Fenton. And at first, Chief Carendoff had a little bit of concern. He was just wondering on how, what would happen. Are people going to follow the rules? I think what we're going to have to do is really emphasize on using our email blast and putting it out there, and continue to put it in our newsletter, word of mouth, that you need to get the updated burn rules every year. Heartland, Deerfield used to issue burn permits, and they did it through their authority, not through their township. So you would go down to the fire department, you'd get a burn permit, and they stopped doing that recently. And at first they were concerned. So what they were doing is going out and doing inspections. I'm sorry, let me back up. What they did is they got rid of their burn permit, and they would have people call in, check the weather conditions, and say, hey, I'm going to open burn. So they were going out and they were checking these residents, And they were finding out the ones that are calling in are the ones that are complying with the ordinance, that are following the rules. And it was more or less, they felt like they were harassing them. So now all they do is you follow the ordinance, they update the ordinance, they make sure that they send email blasts anytime there's an ordinance update so everybody knows. You don't have to come in and pay your $5, you just go ahead and burn. But if you get caught violating it, then you'll pay whatever fees that Heartland Deerfield has established for their fines. Thank you. So that was one of the biggest concerns I had, is what happens on the back end when we do it, and I think Heartland Deerfield kind of answered that. Anybody have any thoughts or questions? Or?
With that, Mike, if you were in a burn, you have to call the fire department just to let them know that you are burning, correct?
Well, we haven't established that. I mean,
Okay.
I could ask the fire chiefs, but I think every time, especially in Heartland, Deerfield, they've got Heartland, Deerfield residents, and then a portion of our residents call them. That gets to be a lot of phone calls.
Yeah. I agree.
So I don't know if, just picking up the phone call, I think everybody should be responsible enough to look on their phone. Everybody's got one, right? Look at the wind speed, and if the wind speed is higher than what the ordinance is, don't burn.
Yeah.
That's $1,400. We've seen it, we've levied it. I hate levying it. It's one of the worst parts. There aren't any really bad parts of this job. It's that telling somebody, you got caught burning, and they write you a bill for $1,400, and you got to pay it. That's the worst part. But I think for the most part, most of our people do follow the burn ordinances and the guidelines. And then there's those exceptions where the people are new to the community, and we've always been pretty lenient and forgiving for that. So, yeah.
So do you mind, Mike, if I address the questions that Sarah Dahlman Jersey sent? Do you mind if we go over the questions and? I have
Sure,
them
if that'll help,
If that will help you guys. Let me just.
Got a microphone? I can barely hear you. I mean, I know what's back there about.
She's soft-spoken.
I know, I know.
I can make her stand up and I'll
They
step
might
on her
have
foot. I bet she gets really loud.
Most of that I know already.
Well, I was going to try to bring up Sarah's letter that she sent, but I'll just read it. She had several questions. Hear me okay? When did the fire permits initially go into effect, and what was the purpose of their implementation? And they went into effect in August of 2009, and the purpose of their implementation, I believe, was just to make sure that people were aware of what the burning requirements were. I mean, I wasn't here then, but I'm assuming that's what that was for. She wanted to know, when did residents of Tyrone Township start using part of their taxes to contribute to fire services? And what is the current fee per household, and how are those funds spent? And what is covered for the residents with these funds? It's actually not part of your taxes. It is a special assessment. Those parcels that have a structure on them are assessed $150 a year. Vacant lots are assessed $75 a year, with the exception of the manufactured home community and the mobile home park. Is there anybody else? It's just those two, right? So that's.
Oh, the apartment complex off Denton Hill.
Okay.
Commercial?
Commercial, you got commercial?
No, it's residential, but they pay an additional amount for every unit.
Okay.
What about a business though that has high flammability?
250.
250.
It's 250.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
250 for the business.
75, 150, and 250.
Okay. And she had said, according to the treasurer's report dated September 2021, $585,595 was spent on police and fire services. We're not quite sure where that number came from, but what we have spent to date is police $37,683 and fire $317,823.
That's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money. What are our annual fire service expenses for the past 3 years? For fire only, the 2019 fiscal year was $443,545. Fiscal year 2020 was $443,561. And last year was $485,203. She asked if there was a discrepancy between revenue and expenses for fire services. There's no discrepancy. I'm not sure if she meant if there was more collected than was spent, but I think that's a little further down here. She wanted to know who determines the fire run rates and how do these rates compare to other similar communities across the state. The 3 fire chiefs.
Yeah, they look at the way it was originally calculated is they look at what their total expenses are, they divide their total runs up, and that's what the average cost is per run. So rather than sit down and try and figure out what a cost because they don't do that there. To literally sit down, it would cause a whole another level of, a person breaking down bills, creating another position. This costs that costs this costs that costs this. And for them to write it up and report, it's very time consuming. So we just get charged per run rate, and that's the contracted rate that we have when we do a fire run service contract. I think our 3 years is when our next one is up, 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, we just did it before COVID, right?
Yeah, it was done a couple years ago.
And how much revenue is collected annually on average for burn permits, and how are those funds used? For fiscal year ending 2020, we collected $8,220. For fiscal year 2021, $7,270. And like Mike said, most of that goes to offset the cost of printing the ordinances that we hand out, and then our receptionist has to enter the information, the cashier has to receipt in the payment. So by the time that's all done, we're really not making any money off of it. It was more to make sure people had the ordinance so that they knew what they were allowed to burn.
So it goes into the salaries bucket and the
No, it goes
Paper
into the public safety fund.
okay.
Let's see. Is it correct that the current policy is that if a resident purchases a burn permit and the fire department is called out for an open burn situation, then the township pays a fire run fee? From what funds are these charges paid? So if the fire department responds, those funds are going to be paid out of our public safety fund, which is also the fund where the 150, the 75, and the 250 that we collect on the special assessment goes. Conversely, if a resident does not have an open burn permit, then the resident pays the fire run bill? Yes. How would this change if permits were dissolved entirely? Would residents then simply pay the fire run expenses and all open burn call-outs as a personal responsibility? Would this reduce the amount of our tax dollars going into fire service funds? Or are the current funds sufficient from taxes to cover the fire run expenses already? Well, they're still going to have to follow the open burning ordinance. So if they're not violating the open burning ordinance, just like the gentleman that was here last week and the neighbor called and said he was burning trash or plastic, whatever he may have been burning, if that would have been found to be true, then he would still be billed for the fire run.
The neighbor?
No, not the neighbor.
The neighbor called.
The neighbor called to report the fire. And the fire department doesn't have any choice. If someone calls and reports that there's a fire, they have to respond. Unfortunate as it is that you have neighbors that call on each other, they don't have a choice. If they get a call, they have to go.
The neighbor should call for full service.
How is billing and payment different for other types of fires? For example, house fires. So if you're a resident of the township, your $150 covers you. So if your house burns down and the fire department responds, you're not going to get a bill. It doesn't matter if Holly, Heartland, Benton Township, City of Benton, sometimes all of those fire departments show up, you're not going to get a bill.
Unless they're violated the burn.
No, this is a house fire.
Well,
What if
you
they're
just-
just running the burn?
if they're burning something and they caught the house on fire, they're in
Well,
violation.
That's a different
Well, it's the
situation.
Well, what could happen?
It
It
could.
absolutely
You're
could happen.
absolutely right.
What would happen in that case if
But
they
that's the
violated?
question.
It has happened where somebody was burning and had caught the neighbor's garage on
Yeah,
fire, right?
that's what
Not
I said.
once, not twice, but 3 times.
Yeah.
So who paid the fire run in that case?
He got fined for the fire run, I believe.
It should have.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I said.
But realistically,
The
if
third
you
time it
have a
happened.
house fire and the fire department responds, you're not gonna be liable for a fire run charge on top of you just lost your home.
Yep.
Let's see. If burn permits are dissolved, will the ordinance keep the detailed rules for safe burning and guidelines for what can and cannot be burned as they are currently written in the ordinances? Yes. The only thing we'll be changing is the section, and you'll see it a little bit later, is the section related to the burn permits. In the event there is a surplus of funds collected, where do those funds go? They will stay in the public safety fund. Sometimes we have years where, well, like just this past year, we had a lot of fire runs because we had so much wind. Sometimes we have harder winters where we have a lot of accidents that happen out there on the expressway. So sometimes the costs are gonna be much higher, sometimes they're gonna be lower. So the money stays in that public safety fund. It can only be used for public safety. We can't use that money for anything else. Is there a citizens committee that consults with the township on fire service matters? If so, who are the participants and when do they meet? Well, we do have a public safety committee that meets, well, we don't have one appointed right now, but when.
Yeah, I can answer that question.
Okay.
We had a public safety committee when we were negotiating the fire runs, and we helped them put the provisions of the contract, they helped with the provisions of the contract. Since we have the contract and we've just extended the current rates, we haven't had any meetings of the public safety committee. There's really no need to, because it's just extending the contract that they stipulated that we get into in the first place.
There's just one more. Would the township consider hosting a workshop event in which the fire department and township officials were willing to engage in Q&A on this topic and share information with residents so that we can better understand options? I don't know, what are you guys' thoughts?
Really what we're talking about is just eliminating the $5 burn permit.
Yeah.
That's all we're
Yeah.
talking about tonight.
Yeah. And if it's costing us more than what we're making on it, as long as they're complying with it.
And trust me, the intent of, the word that I don't like is intent. The reason we did it is we wanted our residents to come in so we could physically hand them the burn rolls and make them sign for it. So,
But the only other option would be to raise the price on that to cover the cost?
well, no, I mean, that's, I don't, yeah, it's just the cost of doing business. I really don't think that that's the right thing to do. I think it's, I think we're all adults here and we should take the training wheels off and quit tasking our residents to come down here just to get a burn permit, especially when it's Friday afternoon and it's like, oh, we got people coming over and we want to do a campfire, I can't get a burn permit. So,
I could see it potentially reducing runs too, to be honest. in theory, it would help eliminate some of these situations where you have a neighbor that's calling and just saying, hey, there's a fire and there's no burn permit. Well, I suppose they still have to respond if somebody says that there's a fire, though, don't they?
Sure.
Will we get them calling here and saying, my neighbor's burning, and can you check and see if they have a burn permit?
You know,
We do have
in reviewing these fire runs and getting feedback, you'd be surprised at how many times there's been instances where there's neighbors that have been in dispute, one of them knows that they don't have a burn permit, and they use our fire department to extend their grievance with their neighbor. For the life of me, I don't get that or understand that type of behavior, but it happens. So, yeah, I think you're right there. That will go away.
Yep.
Valid point. Does anybody have any negatives that they see occurring from this?
When we first got a burn permit, that's probably when it started in '09, they came out and inspected where we wanted to have our fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know, you haven't talked about that.
Actually, I did, but I'll say it again. When I was talking with Adam Carroll, the Heartland Deerfield Fire Chief, when they went away with their permit, they were having people call in to check the wind conditions, and then they were going out to their house to inspect their burn permit or their burn area. And then they found out the ones that are calling in, they're fine. Everything, and they just found out that it was more or less just harassing them and bothering them, taking up their time. Because if they're taking the time to call in, they're going to comply.
I mean, that's part of what it says in the ordinance, right? You have to have it so many feet from your house.
Correct. So many feet from the house, so many feet from the water, only certain places you can burn leaves, certain times of the year that you can burn. You can't burn after dark unless it's a recreational fire. There's a lot of provisions in there. Wind speed's one too.
When was the 150? When did we implement the 150? I can't remember what.
2010.
Was it 2010?
That was
when we voted
that
on the
voted on that ballot initiative for the
Yeah, I
special
knew it was
assessment.
back in there, right after we did the permits.
Yeah.
Can I,
Silence your Vincent.
Does somebody have a?
Yes,
somebody-
Sarah.
somebody have a- I'm sorry, are we done?
sorry, yeah, I'm sorry, I just wanted to ask a quick follow-up question to make sure I understand correctly. And by the way, thank you so much for answering those questions. It's really awesome. So if we get rid of a burn permit and someone's doing, a bonfire and they're following all of the ordinances, but somehow something happens and the fire department is called, are you saying then that the township would be responsible for that bill, so long as the homeowner's following the ordinances? Or would the fireman fall on
That's
the
correct.
homeowner?
No,
Okay,
the township gets billed for every fire run, okay, regardless. So if you are found in violation, then we will bill you the fire run. So if you're following the rules and the fire department shows up at your house, you are not getting billed.
okay, very good, thank you.
Mhm. Go ahead.
Is there a rush to vote on this tonight? Is this going to be voted on?
Yeah, there kind of is, because we want to put it in the newsletter, and we want to, December 1st is when we start selling them, so, yeah.
So I did talk to firemen at the Fenton, Fenton.
City of Fenton?
Yes, City of Fenton, that one. And also Heartland. And they both said on the phone that they were very surprised that they didn't know about this, that there's reasons why they support having a burn permit. And they would have liked to have known so that they could have a representative here, that this was going to be on the agenda. I left messages for the fire chiefs, but it sounds like you already talked to them. But the guys doing the runs, and for reasons I don't understand, and honestly, I don't know which way I lean on this issue. But I know that they have very valid reasons for keeping the burn permit. So I don't know what their reasons are, but other than getting it in a newsletter and, it would, pardon me?
If you're extending it, what's the question?
They're not necessarily extending it. Is that what you're hearing? I was hearing that they're,
That's not what I'm
no,
hearing.
I'm not hearing. I'm hearing that you're thinking of getting rid of it, right?
Yep.
Okay, so they're gonna get rid of it. So, I guess I just wanna say that there are concerns out there that I don't understand. I'm not an expert, none of you guys are experts in the firefighting. I think that they should be involved in the conversation. Also, one of the firemen said to me, well, they won't vote on it tonight, they've gotta bring it up with the public first and then have another meeting. He said, unless they do things different in Tyrone Township.
It's on the agenda.
It's on their agenda.
It's on the agenda.
I spoke to the two of the chiefs personally.
Call their chief.
Who are you talking to?
Tell them to call their chief.
They are going to be talking to their chief. Their chief wasn't in today.
That's where the
But it is on the agenda, so it was noticed to the public, so
Right.
I will,
Oh, okay, I get that, but I guess as a community wanting to work with other communities, I would think that this would be just an opportunity to bring in the experts to talk about it. That's fine, whatever you decide, you
chiefs are
decide.
experts.
Hey, Mike,
Pardon me?
Chiefs are
Why
experts.
do you keep talking to my back here?
Because you're sitting in front of me.
well, come on, you guys should keep like that.
If you want to say something, say it.
Mike, you said you talked to Heartland Deerfield, they don't have burn permits there, right?
No.
Correct.
Okay,
They had them and they took them away.
so that was the chief, they did it away there,
Correct.
so, yeah. So why would you say they're good if they don't have them?
City of Fenton?
No, you can't, no.
They
No,
said
no,
there's,
no.
they said there's different situations with
So
Tyrone Township.
Heartland had them and you bought them through the authority and they did away with them.
Yep.
And they're glad that they did away with them because
I burn over my dad's farm and I don't have to call nobody, buy a permit. So that's Deerfield.
I mean, I think there was when this first started, there was cause for a lot of concern. Like I said, when we were having the discussion and we got into it again last week and I had the concerns and that's why I called the fire chiefs and after talking to them, I'm not concerned. I don't think it's gonna be an issue whatsoever. If it turns out to be an issue, then we change the ordinance and put it back. Pretty simple.
Yeah, I think the same people that burn now are gonna burn without a burn permit if we change it, and they know what the requirements are, so.
And
it'll
you'll get the
help
ones
those-
that'll burn on the
I mean,
lake that aren't supposed to.
We've been doing this would be going into 11 years. If they're not gonna get the program after 10 years, they're not gonna get it. You know what I mean? And then we have the new ones and we deal with them fairly and equitably, so I'm not too concerned about, having a big issue.
And I think the new residents, we're going to still, when they turn in their affidavit, change of affidavit, we're going to give a burn ordinance too.
Right.
And you always explain to them about the burn permit anyway,
Yes,
so
yeah.
the new people, if they come in and
We'll
bring
just
their
give them a burn.
property transfer affidavit, it's all explained to them, so the new people moving in are aware. And it'll be on our website, so people will be able to go, and then, Terry will also be sending out an email blast to everybody that's on our email list. It'll be in our newsletters, which we know people don't always read, but, we do the best we can to get the information out there.
Do you mind sharing how many people are on your email blast?
You probably know about.
I think there's 800 out of,
We have 4,400 parcels.
Wow.
and how many
Some
residents?
people,
Yeah. Okay.
well, 12,000, but you have multiple people in.
Yeah,
one
Right.
household.
20%.
Yeah, that all need to know.
All right, so do we have any other discussion about this? And then I'll entertain a motion.
So moved. Support.
It's been motioned and supported to remove the burn permit requirement from our open burning ordinance and fee schedule. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by, you know what, does it have to be a resolution because it's an ordinance?
Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
So resolved.
Do I get a support on the resolve?
Support.
Thank you. It's been resolved and supported to remove the burn requirement from the open burning ordinance and fee schedule. Any further discussion? Madam Clerk, roll call vote, please.
Herman Ferguson.
Yes.
Mike Cunningham.
Yes.
Jennifer Eaton.
Yes.
Kurt Schultz.
Yes.
Zach Tucker.
Yes.
And I say yes.
Next is item number 2. It's an update on the American Rescue Plan funds, the ARPA funds. Basically, we've been going through seminars. I've read, Casey has read, and Marcy has read. They have not come down with a final ruling on what we can use it for. As far as we can gather, the only thing that our township is eligible to use them on right now is broadband internet and our public sewer system in Livingston County Regional. So we did receive half the funds. We have them in a fund. We will not touch them until we can figure out what exactly we can spend them on. One presentation recently had them that you could spend them on roads, and then another one said that you couldn't. So we don't want to put ourselves in a situation where we spend the money on something and then have to pay it back. So that's basically the update. That's where we are with them. We're in a holding pattern, and once we find out more, we'll let you know.
The sewage, how much do we owe on the sewer bonds?
Oh, what we owe on them?
Well, you said we could use it on sewers.
You can't use it on the bond, though.
Yeah, we can't use it on the bond. We can't use it on the bond. It had to be infrastructure.
Okay, that's fine.
So like, pipe, pump station,
Okay, that's
generators, types of things like that.
We would love to pay them.
I know.
Yeah, I think we're 2034 on the last one.
34 or 36 year.
Long time.
Yep.
We're about ends in 2028.
Yeah.
Do you mind saying when the funds were received?
When did we get them? 2 weeks ago? 2 weeks ago?
No, I think it was in there, wasn't it?
I could tell you tomorrow.
And it's just half the funds?
Yes.
Yeah.
That they designated?
Mike, on the internet, that has nothing to do with phone service, right? I mean, cell phone.
No.
Correct, it's just broadband internet. And the county's working on it. They appear to seem to be wanting to do a significant investment in it, so we'll wait to see what they come up with. You know.
Some areas you don't get
Yes.
it.
I
They were,
think,
they were sending out surveys
yeah, there's surveys, so you can take the county broadband, you can just go on their
on their website.
on the county website, and you can get the broadband survey.
And they get their own funding, right?
Oh, yeah, they got,
That's
the
right.
county got that money.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then, when you start putting, 16 townships under their web, that gets pretty thin pretty quick. So, okay, any questions about that? Moving on to item number 3, the office holiday schedule. You want to talk about that, Marcy?
Sure. We get Christmas Eve and Christmas Day is a holiday, New Year's Eve and New Year's Day is a holiday. We're open 4 days a week, so we'll be open the Monday and Tuesday, December 20th and 21st. We're only open one day that last week. We have to be open one day for tax collections, and how we're doing that extra day is our Veterans Day that we'll take in December as opposed to on Veterans Day. That's what we've been doing since I've been here.
10 years at least.
So do we need to approve the schedule?
Wouldn't hurt. It's not gonna hurt anything.
Support.
It's been motioned and supported to approve the holiday schedule as presented. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. We have no more new business. Moving on to miscellaneous business, we have none. And public remarks. Any public remarks?
I just want to reiterate what Jeanette brought up earlier. I am troubled. I saw the packet. I did see the packet, and it was an unsigned copy for the last meeting that you guys voted on. It was unsigned. And only because King came up here and we knew about it. We got the contract. We got a contract, signed copy. And we only bird dogged up here to see what would happen. And then all of a sudden, here, bingo, here's the signed contract in today's paperwork. So it wasn't in the packet last meeting you guys had. All right. Can you tell me the difference between a modular home park is being treated as a group other than a detached single home condo development? Because the property is owned by the development, the association, in a single detached condo, right? Like they sell about 59. So why couldn't they come in here and get the same deal the modular home park do it on Firelands? Package deal. So I'm trying to reiterate to you guys about the money. I think we need to, I'd like to at least find out what we can do in the future for the Firelands and have an own fire department. I know there's cost. I know there's revenue comes in when we do have a fire department that goes, does fire runs, especially with all this mess around on 23 all the time, all the accidents. But we all voted on that, $150. They got the vote on it too. So you look where Parsonville is, they got the best fire protection of all, any resident in the township. The fire hall's right across the street. And they get the same police and fire runs we get. They call the police, we call the police, their house burns. And those modular homes are pretty darn big. They put them on lots out here. They're a fire run, and that's revenue we can do. But I think we need to look further into the future of fire in our township. We got property. I mean, there's grants. We might have possible money coming in that we could use for public safety. Hopefully, we can use some of that out of this money here. I know, just $307,000 for fire runs. And I just went 300 units over there. Like I said, 300 units at $150. It's 45 grand of revenue just for 300 units. And I think there's double that with the two. And like I said, what is county paid 350 grand for this place? He doesn't even have to pass it down to his people. He could eat it. It's only $10, $12 a month out of his rent. I mean, he only owns a damn thing. That one over there probably owned clear too. That's something he can do for residents. He wants to pass it down to the residents, fine. But like I said, I think we got revenue out there. I think we got a need for a fire department. And I just think we're getting gouged. Sorry, we're really getting gouged. I mean, I'll pay for a fire, but some of the stuff they're sending trucks out for is a little ridiculous. Guy had pickup trucks all I need. And these residents that are calling in, saying they're garbage burning, they're going to make a false statement. Saying somebody's out there burning wood is garbage. I mean, let's get down on these people. Let's get down on these people. Thank you, guys.
Thanks. Anyone else? Go to. No, go ahead.
So tonight, the clerk has finally handed me her proof of hatred in my heart, of my attack from your speech, Marcy, on July 1st. My bullying tactics, my misspending of revenue, my having a Facebook page that I never had, naming it something that I never named it. So what I'll do after the meeting is I'll screenshot this, but sure looks like a lot of quotes of other people in here. There's no explanation, so I'll be addressing that. But thank you for finally giving me the proof that you came out into the lobby to tell me that you would get me last meeting. The thing that I have a problem with this fire issue, burn permit, again, I don't understand all the issues. I don't even know which way I feel about it. But it feels like another thing that's being rushed through and a quick vote just so you can get it in the newsletter. I, as a resident, would like to see the experts weigh in on this, and I think that that would be good. Just hearing it from firemen who said, that's ridiculous, we can't have you guys for whatever reason. I don't know why they feel so strongly about it. But it sure would be a great way to get community involvement and show the community also that you want to have involvement and bring in experts and talk about these things. So I'm a little disappointed in it. And I sure hope that my previous comment about why that signed document, that agreement, was never shown. I don't know, I suppose you guys won't answer me with any body language or anything. If you ever saw it before, you voted. But we sure didn't. It was presented to us like it had never been signed. But Mike Cunningham signed it in March. We just want an explanation. If there was a mistake, then tell us. But there's definitely, it appears that there's an effort to hide that signed document when someone came in looking for it, now to put it out in the meeting minutes. Bottom line was, it was not in the meeting, and now it's in the meeting minutes. So your meeting minutes are inaccurate. Also are a couple of other meeting minutes, which I'll just write to the board about and ask you to adjust those meeting minutes. Thank you.
Anyone else? Go to Zoom.
Hey guys, it's me again. Surprise. Real quick, I really sincerely just want to express my gratitude for taking the time to answer those questions for us tonight as part of your board meeting. I mean, that's the kind of engagement that I was referring to at the end of those questions when I mentioned the idea of a workshop. But I'm really grateful that you brought it up and you took the time to answer them, and I just wanted to end on that note. So thank you.
Thank you. Is there another hand up there?
That's it on Zoom.
Okay. All right. No more public comment? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Supported.
The motion is supported to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? That motion carries. Meeting's adjourned.
Small retainer walls. I know what you say. See, it's there. Yeah, it was pretty sad.